Do you love or hate modern architecture? Either way, it's impossible to ignore. Just think about the glass skyscrapers, the minimalist apartment buildings, and even the fancy museums. They all share the same features: simple, clean, and functional. But how did this happen? How did modern architecture come to dominate our cities and become so controversial? Well, grab a soda, sit back, and let's get into it. Welcome to our channel, where we bring you the history of iconic structures, groundbreaking technology, and the fascinating stories behind them. And today we're diving into the history of modern architecture. So if you're a fan of epic stories and amazing buildings, hit subscribe and join our awesome community. Modern architecture is an international style of building that emerged in the early 20th century and continues to influence building design today. It is characterized by its emphasis on functionality, simplicity, and the use of new materials and technologies. But before we get into it, make sure you smash up that like button if you enjoy learning about epic stories and amazing buildings. So modern architecture can be traced back to the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution in the late 18th century. The Industrial Revolution marked a significant shift in the way goods were produced with the introduction of machines and factories, leading to mass production and urbanization. This period also saw the development of new materials such as iron, steel, and glass, which allowed for the construction of larger and more complex buildings. These advancements made it possible to break away from the constraints of traditional building methods and explore new possibilities in design. Now let's dive deeper into the origins of modern architecture. The first sign of things to come was the Crystal Palace, built in Hyde Park, London in 1851, designed by engineer Joseph Paxton. It was a revolutionary structure made entirely of iron and glass. This project showed off Britain's industrial power to the world. Before this, big public buildings were usually made of stone and looked very fancy, but Paxton's design was different. He used iron for the frame and large panes of glass to let light in, making it cheaper and faster to build. Plus, it could be taken apart and rebuilt somewhere else. The Crystal Palace was a huge hit and inspired architects around the world. It showed them that buildings didn't have to follow old rules, and that new materials could lead to amazing designs. Next, we have the Eiffel Tower, built in Paris in 1889. At first, people thought it was too plain, but now it's a famous landmark. It was a great example of iron construction and showed how strong these new materials were. Then there's the Chicago School, a group of architects in Chicago who came up with the skyscraper in the 1880s. They designed tall buildings with steel skeletons inside, allowing them to hold up the weight of the building without needing thick walls. This innovation opened up new ways of thinking about building design and construction. But wait, what about the Arts and Crafts Rebellion, led by English designer William Morris? This group rejected industrial products in favor of handmade items. This movement highlighted the social and cultural impact of industrialization and the need for a balance between mass production and craftsmanship. While not directly related to modern architecture, tension between industrialization and craftsmanship would be a recurring theme throughout the modernist movement. Let's fast forward to the 1920s, when Europe was recovering from the devastation of World War. There was a desire for a fresh start and a new way of thinking. Architects started to look at machines and factories to find inspiration, and they came up with the idea of the international style. They wanted to create a universal style of architecture that transcended national boundaries. So let's meet some of the pioneers of this movement. First, we have the Bauhaus School, founded in Germany in 1919 by architect Walter Gropius. Bauhaus was a mix of art, craft, and industry that aimed to create a new generation of designers. Some of its key principles included geometric purity, no unnecessary decoration, standardized parts, and affordable housing. One of the most iconic examples of Bauhaus architecture is the Bauhaus Dessau building, which was completed in 1926 and is considered a masterpiece of modern architecture. Next, we have the 5 points of Le Corbusier. Le Corbusier was a Swiss-French architect who developed a set of principles for modern urban planning and architecture. His 5 points included pilotis, elevated columns that replaced load-bearing walls, free facades, non-load-bearing walls that could be freely designed, open floor plans without interior walls, ribbon windows for even lighting, and roof gardens for green space. The best example of Le Corbusier's 5 points is Villa Savoy, a house in Poissy, France that was completed in 1931. It's a white concrete box that looks like it's floating on top of the ground. And then we have Die Stijl and Russian constructivism. Die Stijl was a Dutch art movement founded in 1917 by painter and theorist Piet Mondrian. The movement promoted abstract art based on basic geometric shapes and primary colors. Russian constructivism was an architectural and artistic movement that emerged in Russia after the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution. Vladimir Tatlin's monument to the Third International, also known as Tatlin's Tower, was an iconic example of Russian constructivist architecture. It was an unbuilt, spiral-shaped tower made of steel that would have symbolized the power of the Soviet Union. Unfortunately, with the rise of Nazism in Germany in World War II, many of these modernist movements were disrupted. But after the war, modernism became a popular style of architecture worldwide. The need to rebuild cities and the availability of new materials such as concrete and plywood contributed to the spread of modernism. One example of this is the Seagram Building in New York City, designed by Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. This glass skyscraper became a symbol of corporate America. Another example is Boston City Hall, designed by Coleman, McKinnell, and Knowles. The brutalist style, known for its raw concrete structures, was both loved and hated by the public. During the 1950s and 60s, mid-century modernism gained popularity. Frank Lloyd Wright's Solomon or Guggenheim Museum in New York City, completed in 1959, is a famous example of this style. It features a unique spiral shape that challenges the traditional geometric forms of modern architecture. Oscar Niemeyer's Brasilia, the capital of Brazil, completed in 1960, is another notable example. It's a futuristic city made of curving concrete forms that symbolize progress and modernity. But as time went on, modernism faced criticism for its lack of ornamentation and its focus on functionality. Some people thought it created cold and impersonal spaces that didn't take people's emotional needs into account. Others criticized the large-scale housing projects, built in the modernist style, for being poorly planned and creating a sense of alienation. In response to these criticisms, several new directions in architecture emerged during the 1970s and 80s. One of these was postmodernism, which rejected the minimalism of modernism with the use of color, irony, and historical references. An example of this is Philip Johnson, Satin T. Building in New York City, completed in 1984, the skyscraper has a postmodernist crown that resembles a Chippendale table. Another movement was high-tech architecture, which celebrated exposed structural elements and advanced technology. An example of this is Renzo Piano's Pompidou Center in Paris, completed in 1977. The building's exterior features pipes and ducts that are usually hidden inside the building. Today, architects continue to push the boundaries of design with sustainable and parametric design. These styles focus on using eco-friendly materials, creating energy-efficient buildings, and utilizing advanced technology. An example of sustainable design is Norman Foster S30 St. Mary Axe or the Gherkin in London, completed in 2003. The skyscraper's curved shape helps reduce wind loads and makes it more energy efficient. Zaha Hadid's Hadar Aliyev Center in Baku, Azerbaijan, completed in 2012, is an example of parametric design. The fluid forms of the center were created using 3D modeling software. As we wrap up our journey through the history of modern architecture, let's take a moment to reflect on its lasting impact. Modern architecture has left an undeniable mark on our cities and continues to shape our built environment today. From the iconic glass skyscrapers of Manhattan to the minimalist homes of the suburbs, the influence of modernism is evident everywhere. Despite the controversies and criticisms it has faced over the years, modern architecture remains relevant and continues to evolve. Today's architects are building on the legacy of the past, while embracing new technologies and sustainable practices. As we look to the future, we can expect to see even more innovative and exciting designs that push the boundaries of what's possible in construction. We hope you enjoyed this whirlwind tour through the history of modern architecture. If you're still hungry for more knowledge, check out our other videos. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon to stay notified about our latest updates. Thanks for joining us on this journey through time, and we'll see you next time.